I figure I spend so much time hating on shit on this platform that it's like about time that I give a story of one of the good ones. Best gaming memory. As I said, this is a little different from what I normally do because it's actually saying like a success story of like the last time I felt like gaming was the champion in my life it used to be. The year was 2000. Country Grammar from Nelly was blasting on every radio station ever. It was nothing but hot shit everywhere. I was feeling it. I had just moved to the suburbs, getting in trouble with my new group of friends. Like we were still nerds, but we were trying to like fit in. There wasn't much to do but to get into trouble. So that was like, you know, it was a weird thing that every time you got in trouble, you're looking at your mom's face like, yo, what else did you expect me to do? Now, my first PlayStation was gotten by ill-gotten means, if you know what I'm saying. A little illegal, you know, and I didn't have that many games. Like the only games we had to play were those PlayStation Underground demos, you know what I mean? Like my friends were playing like Siphon Filter and like all this stuff. And you know, I was still stuck on Spyro and like the first stage of Tomb Raider or playing the first stage of Fighting Force on these demos. One day I'm at my boy's house, and if I remember correctly, we were practicing like R&B moves to Cisco's Thong Song or something like that. And I remember we used to do like choreography in the mirror. Somehow we thought this would like equate to popularity. It didn't pan out. Didn't pan out. So like after we get done with a sesh, we taking a break, we drinking some water, you know. I look over on dude's desk, and there is the fattest PlayStation case I've ever seen in my life. It was like one of those moon pies, you know what I'm saying? Like double decker. It had all white and it just said Metal Gear Solid. I'm looking at it like, you know, what is that? Now, I mean, as a poor kid, I didn't even know they made cases that fat. I'm wondering what could be inside that's so awesome. I'm already intrigued by just the art and packaging of the thing. Nonchalantly, I look over and I'm like, yo, what's that? My boy looks at me, gives it one look, looks back at me, and it's just like some whack-ass game. I'm like, what do you mean whack-ass game? You know, elaborate, because right now it looks like the best thing I've ever seen. He's like, man, it's so whack, you can't even get past the first stage or the first area. And I'm like, that does sound whack. So I can't even remember what deal I made him. I finagled my way of getting this game, and it wasn't even that hard because dude was like, you know, I'm done with it, just take it. It's your funeral pretty much. Ran home, you know, did my chores real quick, popped it in. Like, I don't even know why the anticipation was so like crazy at this point, but it was just, you know, I knew the spirit of the game got me deep, you know? And this did not disappoint. It started like a movie. It was like a melodic voice was in the background of this lone hero swimming in scuba gear in this dark, murky ocean. This dialogue between his boss and him about how he's the last hope for things and that kind of stuff. Like a good 90s, kind of like 90s over-the-top film with heart, you know what I mean? And from the back of the case, I'm actually thinking it's gonna be like an action type game, like Siphon Filter and like all the other games I've seen where it's just, you know, blast 'em ups. And no, it's building tension to a point where I'm actually worried about movement. I'm actually thinking about where I'll end up if I make this move or shoot that guy or make too much noise. And I'm like, bet. Credits are popping up as I'm sneaking through this cargo area, just like a freaking movie. I felt like I was playing a movie. And I'm at this point, I got goosebumps popping up all over the place. If you're lucky to sneak past all that, I mean, if you don't run into somebody where you hear the most iconic music ever, you see somebody and it's like, dun 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 dun. It was dope. And if you do make it past all of them and you make it to like the elevator goal at the end, it's like it goes up and title drop. After all the credits while you were playing, title drop in the middle of the game. I was like, dang, revolutionary! Then that like iconic helipad scene that was like playing chess, you know? And we're talking about demanding this from the skill of a 13-year-old who had just got done playing Spyro, an Activision game, flaming sheep and flying through circles to somehow get the intricacy of what's going on where there's a bad guy talking about nukes and political warfare. Crazy. You navigating spotlights, you try not to leave tracks in the freaking snow. There's guards that actually know where your tracks are leading to and like voice that. I'm like, what the fuck? And the game kept just getting crazier. Like every villain you came across, you felt a rapport with. Like you didn't just like hate them and know that they were evil and you had to stop them like your typical game. You felt for them. There was heart in them. You actually felt like sometimes Snake might be the bad guy. You got a story that's only giving you snippets to keep you on the hook for the greater reveal that came out in arcs. And a love story, bro. A love story that just... Okay, Meryl Silverberg. To show how engaging this game was back then, a decade and a half ago. That fat ass case that I was drooling over, that I saw and I knew something was special about that piece of trash. There's a part of the game where you need to contact or find Meryl Silverberg, who is your secondary character in the game, but a big part of the plot. You need to find her, and they're like, how are you gonna find her? How are you gonna find her? You're thinking of things, the people on your comms are thinking of things. A bunch of searching and dialogue. It turns out the way to contact her was a frequency to contact her on the radio on the back of the fucking case. Back of the case! Later on, you have a battle with the boss that's a telekinetic madman who tells you to put your controller on the floor and utilizes PlayStation's revolutionary vibrating function, and he like reads your memory card. Like if you were playing Crash Bandicoot, he brings it up.
You like Castlevania, don't you? You enjoy role-playing games.
And then he moves that piece across the floor, bro. I was actually scared. There's ominous music. This dude's wearing a gas mask. Oh, and even when you killed the dude, the game didn't let you off the hook. It made you feel bad about it. Made you feel gross. Like, what are you doing? Why are you killing these people, bro? Are you a dog of war? Is Snake nothing but a robot eating up the trash, bro? Like, yo, cut the camera, bro. Cut the camera. It was a definite spotlight on what war does to people. Even though it was over the top video game, as a 13-year-old or as a teenager, I even got the point that like whatever patriotism I felt, it wasn't as cut and dry in that. You know, it wasn't as cut and dry as that. There were no such thing. The game drove home that there are no such thing as heroes. There are people paid to do a job. You know, and even the villains, they were paid to do that job. And I mean, they were a patriot to somebody, just like your main guy that you were playing with, your main protagonist, he was a patriot to you. And to even add on to all that, there's multiple endings, a dynamic story, engrave the weight of your choice. Like, you felt it when the game made one of the iconic characters die, depending on your choices earlier. My point is to say, there are some games that completely fulfill every need you crave from entertainment.
Any ideas?
This was my Game of Thrones. 3 discs of pure fantasy wrapped up in gritty realism. I want to say at 13, it critically challenged me. Think about my place in the world and how ambiguous it is to be good or bad. And like when you're wrestling with these things as a teenager, there's no way to really reconcile it. The game just left you. We realize we all have our motives in this life, and history determines if you're a hero or a villain. Like, hero can be celebrated, but we'll never know his sacrifice or his scars. This is the first game where I cared so much about a protagonist, because there's so much terribleness going on in the gaming industry where no one's actually really trying to invoke an actual pure thought. Metal Gear Solid was like, it was the apex of gaming. And I think it changed everything for how game mechanics worked. That it didn't have to be a shoot 'em up. It didn't have to be over the top sex scenes. It mattered the craft you put into it. Let's not even get started on the Easter eggs with the camera that showed ghosts. Let's not get started on the voice work that was spooky, the iconic scenes, the ninja, the freaking ninja.
What? Not again.
But if you haven't played it, even if you got to go back to PlayStation 1 graphics, I do think they sell it on the PlayStation Store and it's still playable on PS3 or Vita. It's worth it, man. It's watching a piece of history. Go check it out, bro.